Are you ready to ignite the blockchain, Ardor and Next family? Crypto woman here, otherwise known as Elizabeth, with Damelon, otherwise known as Bas, and we are celebrating Ardor Days. Happy to have you join me, Bas.
Happy to be here after all these years.
After all these years. It's so nice to introduce ourselves to the community. A lot of people may not know you. And so would you tell us a little bit about your personal life and just who you are?
They probably won't know me, yes. No, I'm Bas, also known as Damelon on the forums and on Twitter. I've been involved in cryptocurrencies and in NXT specifically since 2013. Been 4 years now. The 23rd of December 2013, I stumbled upon Next. Since then, been very active in the community for 3 years, set up blogs, did community management, helped set up the forum. I'm still on there as a forum admin, as people might see. Helped set up the NXT Foundation, helped set up Gellerida. Beginning of this year, I left Gellerida. I'm still on the NXT Foundation as an advisory member, and since February this year, I have my own blockchain education company called Blockchain Workspace.
See how exciting it is to have Bas here? It's an important time for us. Our first big event is the countdown to the blockchain snapshot. I've got my next client over here, and I'm going to check it out. It looks like we're at block 1636336, and we are going to have that snapshot happen at 6:03. So while we're waiting for that, Bas, why don't you tell us how you discovered the NXT project and what grabbed you and made you stick around all these years?
Yeah. I've in 2013, one of the reason I took another look at cryptocurrencies in general was because Bitcoin had just risen to its first all-time high of 1100. So naturally, that was the first thing that grabbed my attention when I went into my holidays. Took a closer look, tried some things out with new altcoins at that point, like Dogecoin. I mined quite a lot of Dogecoin then because it was cool. You could mine 1 million per block. But I was also looking for something new to do. I had been doing, I come from theater, dropped out of theater after 15 years. Then went into a sales and marketing job at a yoga company. Actually lived in a Buddhist commune at that time, which is also, so I was sitting in my room and I was just looking for something fun to do, something creative. And I didn't really see that in the other communities. So you had Netcoin, WorldCoin. I don't know if you remember these really old alts that just changed a few parameters and got to market caps of $500,000, which was really a lot at that time. So I got a bit bored and I heard a lot about Next on Bitcoin Talk because everything was happening on Bitcoin Talk. So I went over. And the project had just started then. A month before, they had the start of the project after the ICO of 21 Bitcoins. Really, really big ICO at that time. There were lots of people calling it a scam at that moment, so that also piqued my interest. And what I actually found was a community of people who were really enthusiastic about something different. Namely, a project where you could do things that might really be useful in the real world. Nothing was done yet. At that moment, you could only send NXT. There were no messages. There were no aliases. There was no asset exchange. There was no marketplace. Nothing was done. This was all just planned by, at that moment, come from beyond. BC Next had already left, passed the torch to Come From Beyond. So we had Come From Beyond as the only dev who was just posting updates, which were clunky as hell. I just looked at my first posts on Bitcoin Talk, which were, don't panic, this is actually a UE error, please restart the client, and then you won't have negative numbers anymore, because that happened with the client. It showed negative numbers. So if that were true, you needed to pay next to someone, which would... So that's how I got in, and had a lot of fun with that. I spent my whole Christmas vacation locked up in my room, sleeping very little, and just absorbing, enjoying myself very, very much, and absorbing everything I could at that time.
Those were the days, weren't they?
Oh, yes.
Before the next installer, when we had to install by command line, and we did, you know, having a GUI was a dream in the distance. So, yeah, that's pretty amazing. I lost some sleep that Christmas vacation too. I actually think that's when I met you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a Christmas vacation that a lot of us remember.
Yeah.
Us do remember that. My family remembers it. I've posted all over the place about giving cryptocurrency, and guys, I'm going to say it again. When it's cheap, get it and pass it on to your loved ones. In a few years, they will really love you. So we are, it says, at blockchain 48. So it's happening. What's going to happen at the next blockchain snapshot is immediately at that block, a snapshot is going to be taken of every single NXT account, and calculations are going to be made on the numbers on your account. For every 2 NXT that you hold, you will get 1 Ignis. And Ignis is the coin that everybody is getting excited and on fire about right now, because it is the first child chain on the Ardor Platform, which is going to be released at 100 UTC on January 1st. So happy New Year. But in the meantime, we've got to watch this snapshot take place. It's the reason why there's been a lot of accumulation of NXT lately, because it is an airdrop, and a lot of people are excited to get their free Ignis. While we still wait, we still have some time. And I just want to ask you, Bas, of all these years, what was your very, very favorite part of your involvement with the NXT community? Or project?
What?
Or project, yeah. What was your favorite? Your favorite?
I still have the idea that the whole bringing together of the community in the end is my favorite. It's what I like to do. We had a lot of fights in especially in 2014 and 2015, but 2014 was if you look at 2014, it's kind of a template of what happened in Ethereum this year. I've been saying this in a lot of presentations I've been doing. We got assets. So we had a lot of excitement with people being able to crowdfund their projects, being able to get their start, like SuperNet started on NXT. We have a lot of people from the community. Zen, who is also an old Tizen, who now does crypto podcasts. He also started in our community. He also mentions this a lot. We had a lot of the people in our community who left eventually, not because they really disliked Next, but because they wanted to go on their own. They were creative and entrepreneurial enough to start on their own. So we have Max Kordek of Lisk. He was very prominent. I just looked up his profile, Passion LTC. That's how he started up. He was the first one who made an NXT Block Explorer page in 2014. So we have Max, we have David, of course, David Sunsterbo of IOTA and Come From Beyond. They also come from NXT. We have Ty, we have myself. Um, we have Komodo, of course, with James and a lot of the people. We have Sasha of Waves. All these projects in some form are not directly maybe children of NXT, but at least of the community. We have a very, very creative and active community in that way. What I liked is that people could just start things. We had that a long time, so we had a lot of fun just being different from most at that time crypto projects, and I really enjoyed that. A lot of them were talking about market cap, and one of the things that the NXT community used to do is in their price speculation not actively not care about price, because we were well priced. We had 100 million market cap at a certain point in 2014, which was one of the highest ever at that point. Yeah. So, but I think that's overall, I couldn't pinpoint specifically one thing. That would be doing a disservice to the whole community at that time.
Well, you were a servant to the community. Everybody looked at you as our coordinator, our community glue. If we needed a mediator, it was Bas. If we needed an encourager, it was Bas. We looked to you. One thing I remember that you did is that you recommended a book to all of us. What's the title of that book with the starfish in the title? The
Starfish and the Spider, which is still an awesome book. It's about the difference between a centralized project and decentralized projects. And it takes a few things like the internet, which it has fun analogies, like people trying to explain the internet to businessmen from the 90s. And one of the things that keeps sticking to my mind when I'm sitting explaining blockchain, you get the same, or Bitcoin or NXT, you get the same kind of thing. Who's the CEO of the internet? There is no CEO of the internet. You have businesses with CEO on the protocol, but not. So that kind of thing still appeals to me. And it's a really good book if you want to understand open source and decentralized development. It's a necessary read, I think, Starfish and the Spider.
Yeah, and if you want to understand what the climate was like in the early days of the NFT, because we all got an idea and we just contributed it. I don't know how many websites I started just because I got an idea. And others were doing the same thing. Some stuck, some didn't, and it was wonderful. I feel like a lot of the early Nexters were huge contributors.
The thing is, and that still goes with anything, you don't need permission. And you will never need permission. That's something that appeals to me with all of cryptocurrency and blockchain projects. You have a lot of people trying to tell you now on Twitter, then on forums, what you cannot do. You shouldn't do this. Why not? It's the same thing with all the forks in Bitcoin. People got really angry over that. And why not? They are allowed to do this. It's part of the model. So, and it either works or it doesn't.
And just like in the NXT community and the Bitcoin community, there's a lot of people who are passionate about the project, not just about the market cap. And those passions ignite and like you said, fights break out or disagreements or heated defenses of our positions, right? And we certainly had our share of those. But we walked through them and then something beautiful. Maybe it comes back to that word of consensus. Something beautiful because the community comes to some consensus about a certain position that works, and we move on. And then we do this all over again and all over again.
There's always been, at least to my mind, a lot of misunderstandings about consensus. It's not just having everybody agree. It's also having the people who don't agree start their own projects. That's also, so the community that stays has consensus. You see this in Next. You also see this in what happened last year with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. It's not as if the people who disagreed stayed in Ethereum. No, they went to the new project, Ethereum Classic. And now both communities are in consensus again. Also a way to, and we did the same.
Exactly.
So consensus is not everybody agreeing. The nice thing for us is you aren't left out if you don't agree, because somebody else or another project will have something that appeals to you, and that's how it should be. So everybody in NXT or in Ardor right now believes this project is the right project for them, and that's how it should be.
And now, friends, do you see why we all loved Bas? He can explain things to us and find another angle to a kind of a complicated idea, and let us see things that we wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So thanks for that, that other angle on consensus, the other side of the picture, which is actually a positive thing. You know, it's a very positive thing that can come from disagreements.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Where are we? We're at block 54. So I don't know what's going to happen at this countdown. I thought about getting disco balls and balloons and streamers, but maybe we'll do that for Ardor lunch. But you know what? They don't sell disco balls anymore. And
yeah, I think it's important to mention to the people who are watching now that they should keep in mind that the Ardor, after this snapshot and the hard fork, the Ardor, this is correct, isn't it? The Ardor assets on the NXT blockchain are not tradable anymore.
Absolutely, and what that means is if somebody offers you a trade, or you see an Ardor type asset listed in the asset list, don't buy it. It's a fake. You cannot trade Ardor after the snapshot because that would mess with the numbers. They had to lock that down until launch, which is 0 UTC January 1st.
Yeah.
Good New Year's gift, but that's a good reminder too. Same thing would go with the Gellerita tokens or Ignis. Yep. There are no tokens to be traded called Gellerita or Ignis for the next few days.
So what's actually happening now is in October last year, the Ardor tokens were distributed. So we're now finally, after 1 month and 1 year and 3 months, we're moving into the stage where we're decoupling Ardor and NXT. There was a lot of confusion between the two for a long time. So what are these Ardor tokens? Can you already forge with them? I remember having to answer quite a few of those questions at that time. Now we're decoupling them.
You know, Bas, I want to back up to what you said where people confuse them. I think in the early days when the idea of a separate evolutionary blockchain came into existence where we would take the features of NXT and build upon them for something greater, we didn't have a name for it. So we called it Next 2.0 or NXT 2.0 within the community. And I think a lot of people at that point got the idea that it was going to replace the NXT blockchain. And rumors started happening that Next is going to be dead. I just want to take some time to let the community, because I get questions about this all the time. How did that happen? In my mind, it goes back to when we started calling it NXT or Next 2.0 before we had the name Ardor.
I remember how it happened because the first post that Jean-Luc made about it was called NXT 2.0. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things, I think this was one of the last things that the NXT Foundation was really intensely involved in, was we need to call this something else if it is something else. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you get this confusion. 2.0 means 1.0 is obsolete. Mm-hmm. And this is something we've been saying for almost 2 years now, that it's not obsolete. It actually has a different use case. You can do things on NXT that you cannot do on Ardor. That means reinventing oneself, but it is necessary to keep pointing that out. It's now finally getting separate. We pushed for a name change, and we then did, I think also in 2016, we did a name contest. We did a lot of kind of contests like that, and we came up with Ardor. One of the things that Tizen once again said, because we have NXT, which is also called Next, and we have Ardor, and we have Jellerida or Jellerida, whatever people wanted to call it. And then we came up with Ignis, and Tizen used to say that we are the community that comes up with the stupidest names and the most difficult ones for English speakers, which I take pride in. But
I actually might take difference with that. I think that the name Ignis and Ardor are absolutely wonderful.
It is something that Tizen used to get really exasperated about. What the hell is this again? Because Angelarida is one of those things that we pushed through because we just needed the name. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, tell us what it means, Bas.
It's an acronym. It's just Jean-Luc. I pushed this through. We were talking about it, and at a certain point, well, let's just do Jean-Luc Rijker Damelot. Get rid of it. Once the name sticks, it becomes a name. That's how it works. You don't need to be too difficult about it. So I'm still in there, which is fun.
You always will.
That's my legacy at this point. It's that simple syllable.
Okay, well, you can remain a syllable. I think it's a great name. We invent so many other things here. Let's invent a language.
Yeah, exactly.
Name, right? I think that speaks to the immense creativity around here. So we are now at blockchain 56. Again, just warning you all: don't trade. Anything that trades after the snapshot is going to be a fake token, a fake trade, a fake transaction, and it will not credit to any one of your accounts.
I'm already at 59, by the way.
Where are you?
I'm at 59.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm at 56. That's interesting. So, oh, my blockchain downloads. That's it too. It says no internet connection. Well, maybe
that doesn't help.
No, maybe I'm taking all my bandwidth up talking to this awesome community. So, yeah, I'm going to post another infogram. I've posted it before here in the comments when we're done about the future of NXT, because we do have some ideas. Riker, or Liar, our core developer, has written several Medium articles and given several talks about it too, as an ICO platform, a crowdfunding platform, are two main things, because we did actually distribute the first half of this Ignis token through an ICO that was conducted on the NXT platform. And that was a pretty successful, minus maybe the first day when, what was that guy's name? MCAA took them all and ran, because he learned how to game the system, and then our developers kind of plugged that hole up, and it became a lot fairer, and it was a very successful way to distribute the coins. And Bas, marketing budget has always been an issue with us. Yeah. Back in the early days, we worked for bounties. Those whales, those 21 account holders, however many of the real people they really were, gave the rest of us people bounties for participating and promoting their project. And that was another way that they promoted that, those little legs of the starfish, going out there and doing our thing. And I know I collected some bounties, but all things said, that ICO didn't collect very much money at all compared to what's happening today in the marketing budgets that people have. So people often criticized, and maybe fairly, the marketing of NXT. I want to speak to that from a lot of different levels, but for right now, I mean, over the course of these days, but one of the things that I want to point out is that the ICO of Ignis, this coin that we're all getting so excited about at this snapshot, one of the things that the funds raised in that is earmarked for is the marketing of these projects and the further development of them, including NXT in 2 years to come. So NXT is not dead.
No, there's, by the way, 2 blocks to go. So
okay, shall we pause and take a moment of silence or something? This is a big moment, that separation.
Yeah, and then we'll get 10-minute block, 1 block to go.
Okay, here we go.
So it's happening now. yeah, let's see what happened. This is the point in any match where you need to just slow down and watch the scoreboard and see where it goes. So that might be a good idea. Otherwise, we'll miss it.
Yes, well, mine's not ticking, so I'll let you tell us.
Okay. Well, the community in Slack is also telling us, so that's fine. I see them counting down. Yeah. So I was going to say something really smart, I think, but now I can't. It was about marketing. Yes, that we had quite a few. Well, quite a few. We had a small group of very active whales who kept donating to people, and that's Nearg, Pouncer were named by Bitcoins Canada, who at a certain point started selling. Oh, we're here. We just jumped over.
We should clap or something, right?
Jumped to 65, so that was, at least in my thing, 3 blocks in one go.
Okay. I don't know if anybody watching cryptocurrency blockchain countdown can feel quite the same as some of us are feeling. It's sort of a numb excitement when something this monumental happens that we've been waiting for so long. Of course, the big event is going to be when the Ardor Platform actually launches and we watch that Genesis block unfold before us. Sometime soon, between now and then, we're going to be able to download the new Ardor software and install it so that we can watch this happen.
And if this goes like anything in any launch I've ever seen, there will be things going severely wrong. I've not seen any project that's launched without a hitch. There will be bugs. There will be some unexpected things. This always happens. So there will be, my guess is there will be initial excitement and then somebody coming in, it crashed, or this happened, or I have the negative numbers. And that's fine. That's my point. That is.
Exactly. And you know, when you have a good developer team on call or watching this and nurturing it the whole way through, they respond. And our developers with Joe Rita are quick responders. They showed that to us in the ICO.
Well, this happened. Not many people. I don't think a lot of people remember this, but we had our forking opportunity too back in 2015 when one of the major exchanges at that time, Beta, was hacked, and at that time there was more than 5% of the whole supply of NXT was stolen from that exchange. Had to do with bad security on their end, but that's, you need to deal with the consequences. And at that time, the community was very angry and very panicky, because 5% in a proof of stake coin, 5% of outstanding supply is quite a lot. So this person could have started staking with it and gained influence. So what Come From Beyond at that time did, I remember sending him a message a few minutes after it happened, because the exchange operator actually contacted me on Skype. During the day, they made a forking proposal. We could do two things. We could either roll back the blockchain, or we couldn't. And in the end, we decided, for the reason that you don't want to create a precedent of rolling back the blockchain, everybody decided not to do it.
I remember that conversation very well. Here's one of our more passionate ones, wasn't it, on the forum?
Yeah, it's supposed to be, because there were a lot of funds at stake. In the end, the exchange owner bought back most of them from the attacker, and then everything was fine again. But he lobbied very hard in the community to do a rollback, of course, because it was a significant amount of money, even at those prices. So if it happened today, he'd be bankrupt. It's as simple as that. He wouldn't he wouldn't be able to buy it.
Well, one of the things that came from that, I think, is the community's consensus or decision to protect the integrity of blockchain.
Yeah.
And I actually think that that brought the word blockchain and what that represented into the forefront of more people's minds and made them consider, what are the ramifications? What do we do to protect this awesome technology and move forward with integrity as a community? I think it was a good decision. I was one of the ones that said no, but then I didn't have any money on Beater either. So
I do think that we were actually one of the first projects that start using blockchain more often. I still have my old T-shirt here. I don't know if you can see it. This is an old one. And this was the next generation of cryptocurrency. This was the narrative in 2014. Everything was called cryptocurrency. And in 2015, it changed into blockchain. And I think we changed the name then on up. We went to Pay Expo, which was a huge financial conference in London. Nothing to do with Bitcoin or blockchain, but we went there anyway because Lee Gibson Grant got us in. And
who may join us this afternoon, by the way.
And we changed. I remember changing the tagline into blockchain platform at that time because we saw this was at least would get us different attention. Cryptocurrency at that time was really a negative thing.
Yes, it was, but blockchain was a very misunderstood thing. So in some ways, that was a little bit bold. Because the cryptocurrency is the way people who were funding the projects by trading on the exchanges, the way they understood and knew it. But blockchain says more about what the tech is, the fundamentals behind the
I think often we trailblazed things. NXT certainly trailblazed, for instance, what was then called a pre-mine, which would now be called an ICO or an airdrop. We did that. The BC Next did that in 2013. Mm-hmm. He wasn't all that ambitious. He got 21 Bitcoin out of it. That was the max that he could get, actually, at a price of about $200 per Bitcoin. That's what people don't remember. So the whole project raised $4,000 altogether, and it was never spent. Until it went into the IOTA, that money actually went into the IOTA ICO. But 21 Bitcoin is unheard of right now. So
and that brings me back to another one of the things that kind of binds this community together is that back in the days when NXT was a dream and a vision maybe of a fortune, some of us have stuck around for a long time when it wasn't worth very much at all, except for the fundamental idea of blockchain and the projects and what it could present to the world. And so I think in some ways an ideology of influencing the world for something good or bigger than ourselves has kind of actually come through as a theme. Among some of us, at least, that have been around for a long time. I know in some places in the world right now, everything's about market cap and, how much money can I make today on a day trade? And so NXT has not been your choice for that because obviously it's not had a lot of fluctuation there until recently because of this airdrop probably. But what's your opinion about the ideology of the blockchain?
Well, it's different now. This is one of my pet peeves. In 2013, 2014, almost every project had a form of decentralization and a different form of governance as its key features. And that was what got people excited. The fact that you could jump in and you would be rewarded based on the quality of work that you did. At this moment, I see a lot of projects coming out that don't care either way. They just run like businesses. They're building an application which doesn't need a separate blockchain at all, but they're still doing it because it's the thing to do. And a lot of people coming in start out as having no connection to that kind of grassroots movement at all. You see that a lot on Twitter and in articles, that people don't care about the projects, but just want, for instance, Bitcoin Cash has a lot of these people, for instance, that say we just want more transactions. Yeah, but we already have a system that can do more transactions. It's called Visa. So if we're just going to be a new Visa, it's utterly boring to me. I don't want any part of it. And this is not against Bitcoin Cash, because it's a legitimate project in my view, as they wanted to do. Most people involved probably really believe what they want, but it's much less about the ideology. And I love seeing projects that are still like that. NXT still has that, Ardor still has that. Of course, we also have people who just want to make money, which is also fine. It's a legitimate thing. I also got into this to make some money. I loved doing bounties for the wiki, because it actually earned me more money in a day than I could make in my day job, which I didn't get that much money in my day job, by the way. So also might have something to do with it.
So tell us what the process of creating something in the wiki and getting a bounty. How did that work?
Well, we had a guy called Joe Fox at that time, who was from Canada. He was a theater. He was also in theater, sound technician, I think. And he set up this lovely system where you could be accorded points based on the amount of work you did. And at the end of each month, these points were tallied, and you would get paid from the marketing fund that we had then, the marketing committee. And you'd get paid, and you'd get based on how many points you'd accumulated. And it was a good way to make money. It was nobody really involved in deciding how much money you got, which was good. If you see bounties now, you get, if you do this, then you get this much. The bounty we had was, this is the amount of money there is, grab as much as you can by doing as much work as you can. Of course, it was a kind of a review process, but not that much. And it's, yeah, that worked. I spent 2 nights because I saw somebody else editing the Dutch wiki, and I didn't want to let the NXT get away from me. So I spent 2 whole nights and days, of course, doing the whole Dutch wiki. And I actually got, I think, 90% of all the bounty for that one. So that was my start with NXT. And yeah, and afterwards I made, I also created a site, a blog, because we didn't have a forum at that time. We just had one big mega thread, really a big one, with 20 pages per day. And people thought nothing was happening because they couldn't keep up. So I decided to make a blog, spending 2 hours each day going through all the pages and just cataloging. And this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. So people get this feeling of accomplishment each day, which was fun. And that got me some attention from Wales. That got me some bounty, not bounties, donations, because these people were kind of patrons to me. They were just giving me money to do good work. And that's something I still like. It's a good thing. Evil Dave and I, in 2015, I think, yeah, 2015, did the Tennessee project. We needed money for marketing. We were at 8 million market cap at that point. That was the low point of NXT, and we needed to do some marketing, we thought. So we set up a fundraiser, not an ICO. We did a donation round for 2 weeks, and the whole community got together around that. And we raised, I think at that time in price, the equivalent of $80,000, 40 for us both, so 2020, and 40,000 in marketing budget. And people were really generous. It wasn't enough, but it never would have been enough. We couldn't go up against Ethereum with that, but at least we had a war chest. Mm-hmm. And that money is still actually being, that's gone to the next foundation and now is going to ANG. There's still, we did some fairly conservative financial management there.
We can, yeah. And I want to speak about the generosity of the whales back then,
Yep.
because in this decentralized Wild West that we were all participating in, they did offer bounties for work, but they did offer some generous just blessings, you know, where something NXT would show up or your account number would be asked for because they recognize contribution, like for you, like some of the donations you got passed. And I'm not sure if a system like this would ever work again, or if we were very, very unique in it, but it was a very interesting way to do business. That's for sure. So I wanted to, there were several things that you mentioned that I wanted to comment on, but one of them is I want to sort of acknowledge Evil Dave.
Yeah.
An awesome, awesome contributor to our community. Another one who's still working behind the scenes. He's with his family on holiday right now and can't join us, wishes he could. I'm not sure, I think he changed his avatar recently, but that little smiley face, that little orange smiley face with Evil Dave, he's not an evil guy at all. He's quite a gentleman and quite a contributor. So I just want to say kudos to Dave.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's been quite a few people who went underground, but worked in the back, kept working in the background. Dave is one of them, and he worked so hard. He got ill at a certain point from it, but he just kept going at a lower pace. And of course, then we got Traven at a certain point, which let me off the hook for a bit because he had the same kind of energy. Yes. And we have a lot of people keep contributing on this specific things. We have Val Forbid, for instance, who is a designer who works on the websites. Peter, who is with a long number behind his name, who's also Dutch, by the way. There's a lot of Dutchies. We took over a bit. But he's doing a lot of help desk work at the moment. He didn't before, but crypto allowed him to quit his job at a certain point. And then the first thing he did wasn't lounge. No, he started working on the most horrible thing you can do, which is support tickets. It's a very good thing to do, but a good help, because we were the first one with a real help desk. Mm-hmm. Nobody thought of this. I did because I worked at a help desk and I know that it's also a PR tool. But this is necessary. If people have questions, give them a help desk. And then people actually started it sending tickets, and oh my God.
I never thought of Peter as our PR tool, but you know, I said I never thought of Peter as our PR tool, but I just made that.
Yeah, well, he now is a PR tool. Yeah, but
he's a great one. I even asked him. I have a question I don't understand.
The thing is, of course, your community is your PR tool. Mm-hmm. Because if you meet nice people in a community, you'll like the project. It's one of the things that if you're an idiot or an asshole to somebody, it will reflect badly on your project always, even if it goes to a huge market cap. Yes. If you're an asshole, and you just don't do that to people. That's one of my pet things. That I hold to that.
Yes, and I'll speak to that too. It's the reason one of the reasons I've stuck around so long, because people often ask me about women in cryptocurrency, and it's pretty obvious since I let my face be known that I'm a woman. And there's some places that are just pretty nasty out there still. Yeah. And in the NXT community, I've been well received and extraordinarily well respected, and I appreciate that. And it's one of the reasons why I'm sure one of the reasons I felt comfortable enough to stay here. Yeah, nice bunch of people here, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this celebration, is to bring us all together to talk about our involvement with the project. We're talking about NXT a lot today. We're going to reminisce. We're going to, just talk about our contributions and our visions for it. And we're going to move into the exciting new launch of the Ardor project as the week goes by, with more interviews from more community members. A lot of people have committed. We haven't scheduled all of them yet, so we'll just pop up whenever we can here on this page. And we invite you to stay tuned and join us. The nice thing about this is you can always come back to the page and scroll up. I am going to take these recordings and I'm going to make pages on the Ardor Next Group website. That's ardornxt.group. And those pages will be up shortly. And these will be archived so we can come back and look at them, because hopefully, like Bas has been just imparting all kinds of wisdom and knowledge and bits of history to us, that's going to continue throughout the next few days, and excited to do that. Bas, what's your vision for the future? Next, NXT, Ardor, Ignis, or just blockchain? We know you run blockchain workshop. Actually, let's back up and why don't you tell us about how your involvement with NXT and cryptocurrency kind of spawned you into another career?
It's one of the things I like to do. What I did a lot in NXT was I did presentations. I loved going in front. I'm an actor. Come on, I like being in front of people and telling them what to do. No, it's I went in front of groups and explained NXT to them. Did that from the start, and I still encourage anyone out there to just go and do it, because it's not that hard. If you're enthusiastic, just go in front of groups and explain to them why you love the project and how it works. You don't need to ask anyone. But one of the things, like I said, help desk was one of the pet project that I wanted to get off the ground. Writing articles is something I've done a lot. And the whole theme of that is education. And one of the things I saw and see in this whole ecosystem for blockchains is that most people who buy things, and I'm talking about business people and I'm talking about retail investors, have no clue what they're buying. Because it's so vague, you can project your own dreams onto it, even if it's an idiotic idea. So what I wanted to do at a certain point, and I couldn't do it from within NXT because I'd have a conflict of interest by being tied to the project, was teach people the basics. Why were blockchains invented? Because that's something people seem to be forgetting. They're just talking about blockchain, but you need to know why something is invented to know why it's working the way it does. Why can't you roll back a blockchain? That's an interesting question, and most people probably wouldn't have an answer to it. Why is a blockchain linear in time? Block, 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 and you can't go back? Because you can do it with databases. Well, it has to do with the reason why it's invented. It needs to be immutable. That's what we want. We want a censorship-resistant, immutable record. This is the way to do it. If we wanted something else, we would have gone with a normal database. These basic things, that's what I wanted to teach people. So I started, and I wanted to do something that I've seen a lot of people miss out on, is to encourage people to just start projects, even if they fail horribly, because that's the way you learn. So Blockchain Workspace is, we created a curriculum where you can learn basic knowledge to a certain extent. It's mostly based on mastering Bitcoin from Antonopoulos, and then as kind of an extra study after that. So if people are hiring people for blockchain projects, they need to know who are these people, what kind of knowledge do they have? Because at this point, there is no benchmark. If anybody can call himself a blockchain expert, while he isn't. So if they've run through our curriculum, people can check, this is what they need to know. And otherwise, they're really not graduating. We have exams, and if you don't graduate, you're not getting anything. It's not an official certificate, of course, but it is at least a basic knowledge. Same for projects that we're doing. We're not taking that many projects. People come to us and say, we want to do this on the blockchain. And after, most of the questions are basically the question, why don't you use a database? variations on that theme. What are you doing now? Are you willing to recreate your whole business? Because that's what you'll probably need to do if you're going to do something with a blockchain. If you're not, sorry, we can't help you. So it's fairly strict, but it is something I like to do. There's enough bogus projects out there. I like to add something different to the mix. And we're blockchain agnostic. That has gotten me into a bit of problems with the NXT developers at some point in this year, because our company hosted an Ethereum meetup just because we wanted to. And arguably, they weren't happy about that. Mm-hmm. But to do what I need to do, that's what I need to do. Even if I don't think that a project works, I need to host it to further knowledge. And we're very critical about anything. So that's what I'm doing with Blockchain Workspace. And I'm also still onboarding people to NXT. I have a few projects working on NXT, which may go to Ardor or may not, because NXT is good enough for them. And it does something that Ardor can't. So yeah, I don't know where it'll go. Maybe in a year I'll do something completely different or not. I just keep following my interests and the things I think are important. And it all boils down to this creativity thing. The fact that we can now do things we couldn't do before 2009. It's as simple as that. And in a broader sense, before 2013, because you cannot do everything on Bitcoin. It's getting bigger. With things like rootstock, etc. But there's something to be said with for the smart transactions that Ardor and NXT have. That's good.
Bas, I want to pull that back around to the creativity part, and we were talking about NXT. I just want to let people know who don't know that it is available for NXT, that we have the NXT blockchain creation kit.
Yep.
And anybody can download it, and you can create your own blockchain, and you can play with it. You can mess it up. You can do whatever you want with it. It's a wonderful tool for learning blockchain. It's also a wonderful way for actually making a real life business use or application or personal use application of blockchain for yourself. There is a licensing condition on it from Gelarita. When you create your blockchain, on the initial Genesis block, 10% of all of the tokens will go to current NXT holders. If you're making a private blockchain and just playing around, of course, that's never going to be announced and nobody's going to know it. But if you have a business application that you're building, and you're going to even make it public on the exchanges or use it to create funding of any way, NXT account holders are going to see that profit. So just wanted to say that. But interesting that a little while ago, before I got distracted with the offers from ANG, I wanted to create a blockchain. And purely to demonstrate, because I wanted to take my business into the place where we were going to interface blockchain with APIs and GUIs and things like that. But I wanted to create a blockchain to demonstrate online how easy this is using the NXT blockchain creation kit. And time got ahead of us, but I still want to do that as a demonstration sometime, just to show you all.
It's something I let quite a few of my customers do. It's okay. Even if because it's a nice tool, even if they don't stay on NXT. Because when working, like I said, if you're working on a blockchain project, you need to understand that it's an append-only database, so you can only go forward in time. The NXT blockchain creation kit is a very good tool to just start working and trying out things. So even for that reason, it's a very good thing. And the nice thing is, if the functionality already that you need is already in there, there's no reason to create a smart contract after that anymore. There might be, but that's a good point to find out. Instead of expending resources on starting with a smart contract and then realizing it doesn't work, and then not realizing, then needing to audit that code to see if it's actually the function that doesn't work or the code that's crappy. That takes a lot of time. And even if you look at the licensing structure that Jellerida does, it's fairly cheap for the amount of value that you get. This sounds like an advert now, by the way.
It's okay, advertising.
I just heard myself going there, and this is something of a professional hazard. Wow.
Well, you know what is good, you just have to say it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that it's a good tool to just try out. And the thing that I sometimes was really frustrating and is frustrating for anyone in NXT is the fact we don't really have a wow factor. And it's actually what appeals to me. I like a project that just works, which is fairly pedestrian in its approach, but works. It's something of a quality that our developers also have. They're not wowing things. They will say, well, this works, but it can't do this. And that's something you don't see a lot in other projects. It's not a good marketing strategy.
No, in cryptocurrency, hype is the marketing strategy.
Exactly, but it is what it is. It's a long-term strategy to me. It's just saying it does what it does. Some things really need work, so don't use it for this. And it's, like I say, it's pedestrian, but it does do the job. And it does it a damn sight better than a mal-constructed smart contract.
And one of the ways it does its job is these incredible built-in features that we have. We have them proven for 4 years on the NXT blockchain. Well, 4 years minus however long it took us to develop and add them. What we were adding them once every few months or so. We were always looking for the next feature. Yep. But yeah, so what?
Well, I'd like to break in one thing, by the way. I just see it on Slack, and if people are listening, it seems that Poloniex is still trading Ardor at the moment.
Oh.
And it's not supposed to.
Wonder
because we had the snapshot.
Huh.
Do we know anything about that? Because that is a bit...
We've heard very little from Poloniex.
Yeah, it's still trading on there, and it just pumped. And the thing is, if you're caught in that and you're buying at this price, you're not getting Ardor for it because the snapshot was done, wasn't it?
Yes, unless they're going to take those tokens maybe and apply them within Poloniex to the new Ardor.
This is important for us at least too. Be careful. Be careful is then the word. I don't have enough information. I just see it on the Slack and there's confusion about this. I'm also confused, but they may have an internal system for dealing with that. I don't know.
Yes, I would actually not do it personally. If there's confusion in the crypto world about whether something's real or not real, my advice is stay away. It looks appealing sometimes when it's pumping or whatever, but the reality is you stand to lose a lot.
Yeah.
So always trade carefully and responsibly. Yeah. So we've covered a lot, but I still want to talk about those features features of the NXT blockchain, because you know what, we're bringing those over to Ignis, most of them.
Yeah.
And which one was the first one? The alias system, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So exciting. Do you remember? I have a fortune in aliases. If somebody would buy them from me. I mean, we collected these aliases and we stayed up. I stayed up all night, maybe more than all night, buying aliases. And we bragged with each other on the forums which ones we got, who has these things, because we really thought that they would be an important part someday. Do you see aliases working as we once thought that they would?
No, the idea was to get a decentralized DNS system. That's what I remember, but that never the idea was taken from Namecoin, of course. Early development also kept integrating things that were done on other systems like Namecoin, like Litecoin with the increased blocks, into NXT as much as possible. Assets exchange was called coins, of course, which was already done on Mastercoin, which is now called Omni and Counterparty. Yeah, alias system was around the time that I came on to something, 24th, 25th of December 2014. Yeah, so, but I do remember a frenzy of alias buying, and the idea was that you could, yeah, just like domain names were at the start of the internet, way into the history of the internet, you could do the same here. It never materialized because I don't think we really found a use case for it.
But there are ideas for its use and application out there if somebody wanted to use them. And hey,
Yeah.
Need a good one. There's a few of us that are holding some. So.
Well, one of the things that also, of course, happened was that we got feature after feature after feature, and it was kind of cascading over each other. And then at a certain point in April 2014, we got assets.
Mm-hmm.
And assets really took off. And the other ones, like arbitrary messaging, which also started in January 2014, the messaging feature,
Mm-hmm.
Those got snowed under. And a much more exciting asset exchange. And that actually was the one that was really used a lot. At one point, we were the main asset trade. Now it's called tokens on CoinMarketCap, I saw, but it was called assets for a while, for quite a few years, and that came from us.
Well, there was SuperNet. We talked about that a little earlier. That was an asset on the exchange and a popular one for quite some time. And wasn't Gin?
Gin is still on there on CoinMarketCap. Debonair, we had a huge amount of cloud mining tokens at a certain point. A lot of scams. That's also one of the things. A lot of the scams that you see now on ERC20 tokens you can directly mirror with the assets that we had.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, Mastercoin or Omni never had that problem because they vetted their assets before they could deploy, which means there's a middleman again. So
the centralized solution instead.
Yeah, you couldn't freely add assets there. Well, that's a decision you can make, but it also, in my mind, it still makes them liable for any asset that they do let on there. So, for instance, Tether is on Omni, and if Tether really gets into trouble, which some people which some people suspect, then what's the position of Omni Foundation then? Are they liable for letting them on? Because if they're vetting, that's the problem every time. If you start vetting things, you become probably legally liable for that. If you don't, you're at least plausible deniability. That's yeah.
Yeah. So the assets is big because it's one of the places that we could do ICOs in the future. It's the place where we did our ICO for Ignis.
Yeah.
So and Ignis is the reason why everybody's excited. Ignis and Ardor right now. We also have.
I'm very happy that we met that Gellerita managed to get a pegged child chain with €2.
Yes. A lot of the world hasn't heard about that yet. I know we've tweeted it and stuff. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? I hope to have Martis on here within a couple of weeks to explain his project.
It was one of the things that we thought was really necessary at the start of Ardor. You need to build an economy. So not a lot of people may know it, but assets on the Ardor system are cross chains. So if you have an asset on a child chain, you can trade it over all the other child chains. If you have a pegged token with a set value, so a stable coin basically, you have an internal economy. If it has an on and off ramp to euros, USD, we were hoping for euros, USD and yen. Those are, and maybe renminbi. well, the start is now with the euro, so there is a way to fiat within the system, and that allows an internal economy on the Ardor platform, and that's something I think is really necessary. So the idea still for Ardor for me is that if that will materialize, I'd get really excited, is that you have these child chains which can do a lot of things on the protocol without at any point touching the normal financial system, only on the off and on ramps. That would be awesome if that happens. And they got the peg to euro done. And that's Martis, you say? Martis is doing that?
Yes, that's his project, and we hope we can, we can schedule some time to talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a done deal. It's there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to launch exactly at the launch of Ardor, but I think it's going to be there really quickly afterwards.
Well, it needs to be there. It is really important for Kickstart, because that makes it interesting for participants to create economies there. Mm-hmm. So if there's one thing that a lot of energy should go to, I think, is trying to get those assets, those pegged things, as soon as they can. And the more people can exchange value, the better it is.
Right. I look forward to the day then when we do get yen and that'll be a good day. What a lot of people probably don't realize is that the person who puts this project together actually has to work closely with the financial institution. You just make euros. So there's a lot of very complicated steps to putting a pegged child chain.
If you want to do that, there's a lot of talk always that we need to disregard the financial system, and that's fine. People can say, but it does. If you want that, it does limit you. So if you want off and on ramps, you will need to interface with them or do something with local traders. That's the other option, of course, the local Bitcoins trader kind construction. But that does tend to be a little bit shady. For a lot of people, that will be a barrier to entry. So the easier and smooth you can make that transition, the better it is. I still hope for a lot of projects that most normal users won't see any blockchain at all. Seamless.
That's the goal. I mean, we all use email and we don't see the technology behind it.
Thank God.
I can't wait for those days.
Yeah, exactly. So well, I think that in the end will happen. But the peg is really important, and I like that it's there. Yeah.
Great. Wow. So, words of wisdom, Bas. We've got a lot of new people coming in to this crypto space, not just NXT and Ardor. I'm sure that people are starting to try and dabble in cryptocurrency, and a lot of them come in for trading. Some of them are showing interest because they're representing businesses and they're coming in to learn a little bit more about the application. But do you have any words of wisdom from your years of experience that you can pass on to people that will help them in their experience?
It's all to me, it's all common sense, basically. So for the traders, for new traders, it's always be careful where you put your money. Don't get emotionally attached. There's a difference between being supportive of a project as a project and taking the profits that you need to take at a certain point. For instance, if you this is one of the trading advice, the one piece that always has been helpful. If you at a certain point, for instance, have doubled your investment, take your initial investment out, because that makes you free. Everything then, or third, or whatever you want. That's an arbitrary number, but at least take it out, so any money that you have in there is basically profit So there's a lot less stress involved at that point. For project, just do them. Don't wait for others, because if you wait for others and you have a good idea, you lose your first mover's advantage anyway. Find somebody to work with you for free. Don't always look towards ICOs. You don't need that amount of money to start a project. Most projects can be done by just investing time and then making profit after a while. And don't expect profit until at least a year in. Because I know of no startup that really makes a profit in the first year. I'm very, very, very suspicious of any startup making profit in the first year.
Or the first minutes, like some of these ICOs, right?
Yeah, it can happen. It definitely can happen, but it is still a lottery. But for projects, it's the long. You need to take. If you start a project, you need to have a long vision. I know a few projects that have been working for years now, and still are working on the basics because they think on launch. And they're not deterred by people complaining to them. They're just working and doing good work. But you see this with a lot of projects. They lose steam because they got a lot of negativity because people demand results within two months. If you get results within 2 months, either you prepared for 2 years already without anybody knowing, that's a possibility, or you're creating a shit product. And I don't think there's really a middle way unless you're an absolute genius. And there aren't that many geniuses.
And I think it's important to point out here too that when you do launch your project with NXT or as a child chain on the Ardor platform, that a lot of the features are already done for you. You don't have to, like Bas said, you don't have to go and raise a lot of money with an ICO to go out and hire a team to work for the next several years to put your project together, because that's really what an ICO is doing. We aren't, in some cases, it's just about, ready to go. Blockchain as a service. We're here for you. And then, of course, if you want to hire a developer to fine tune it or tweak it or add to something a little bit more, that's a possibility too. But the building blocks are here for you with the NXT blockchain and the Ardor platform, which is, the mother chain with all of the child chains beneath. So.
Well, and the thing, of course, is, again, on ICOs, an ICO is not raising money, it's taking a mortgage.
Oh, good way to look at that. Huh?
Because unless, and this is opinion, but unless you intend to maintain that value for your investors, and that takes work just like a mortgage, then you're just taking money from them without offering anything back. And there's no business that is going to survive by doing that, because if there's 15 million going in, or 50 or 200, if you don't get that back to an investor, they will get angry and potentially take action. So it's a mortgage. And just like any mortgage, you need to repay. Any business does that. That model doesn't change.
Yeah. So maybe we should talk a little bit about an ICO on the NXT blockchain and how that could happen. Did you follow the Gellerita ICO of the Ignis token closely?
Yes.
Would you like to, what was your opinion about that? How could that be helpful as a model for other people?
Well, the thing is, I'm probably not the best person to ask about it because I really dislike ICOs.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And I can say too that I don't want to say I dislike ICOs, but I'm very cautious about ICOs. When we see, for instance, governments coming in and trying to regulate things, one of the reasons that they feel the responsibility to do that for the people of their nation is because ICOs have really come in and ripped a lot of people off. And I don't like that either. I don't participate in ICOs anymore. I participated in 2 before I learned my lesson. I was like, okay, this is not where I'm going. But with the NXT blockchain, using the asset exchange as an ICO, it's a little bit different than just the typical put out your own token, because it's a token of value that you're giving. Is that the way I understand it?
How do you mean?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Well, the thing is with any ICO, as long as it's just a token on another blockchain, and this goes for ERC20 tokens and for Ignis tokens and for any asset, if it doesn't become something that is more real than that, you're in trouble, probably. So Ignis is moving to a new blockchain and becoming its own thing. That's a good thing. There are a few projects that are ERC20 tokens on the Ethereum blockchain that also are only placeholders until the project gets its own platform. Fine. Then it's an asset-backed token which transitions into something more real. If it's just on a blockchain, it becomes a lot more difficult because what's backing it really? I've seen the most ridiculous one we've seen on NXT in 2014 was a guy selling shares in a camel milk factory in Australia and using the assets to give dividends on the milk, on the profit. Yeah, right. That's a red flag on many levels. The thing behind ICOs for me, why I don't like them, and again, everybody can do them and they're bearing their own risk, is you need to give it back, and the regulatory framework is so difficult, you might get into trouble down the line. Not now, but maybe next year or the year after. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to get involved with this one. It was a personal decision because I think the risk for me is too high. And that's fine. Other people have different risk profiles and don't think the risk is that high. That's also fine. I don't have all the information, but that's my personal risk assessment. And again, that's what anyone needs to do for themselves. Look into it, make your own risk assessment, and then either do it or don't.
And here we are. We're right in the middle of this no man's land now, where we've had the NXT snapshot, and probably the calculations have already been made about how much Ignis you will be awarded the Ardor Platform launch. And the way you'll access that Ignis is you will, within a couple days, a short time from now, the Ardor software is going to be available for download, where you'll download Ardor software and you'll access your accounts with your NXT number, the exact same number that you have for your NXT account. You'll access your Ardor account there, and your Ignis and your Ardor and your Ignis will appear as a child chain token. And that's pretty awesome. I think that I can't wait to start seeing all of those child chain tokens just start appearing down the list. We have quite a few coming out. We have Janus and BitSwift coming out right away. We'll have this Euro pegged one coming out shortly, and there are more in the works. So that list is going to grow.
No, exactly, and at a certain what my expectation is too. We saw a few tokens move to Ethereum this year, and that disappointed a lot of people. The nice thing is a platform like ours now also offers the choice to do it the other way around. There's no reason why things shouldn't migrate from Ethereum or back or both. I'm involved in a project called Internet of Coins, which actually started in 2014 on NXT and on Counterparty and on Mastercoin, because they wanted to have interoperability of tokens between chains. And I was their first backer they're a Dutch, and then they're now working on Ethereum, NEM, NXT, Ardor, all these things, and they want to have cross-chain tokens. And they're actually really far ahead. This is again one of those projects that's very much beneath the radar. And for some reason, I always get involved with beneath the radar project because I love those. That means there are no monetary incentives to take energy away from just development and doing what you think is right. So that's also what we can see happening. So then you'd have a project like Janus or BitSwift that exists on multiple chains. That's also increasing the value of everything. Doesn't mean that the exclusivity is something that's, to me, is foreign to cryptocurrencies. The fact that you have one system that wins it all just doesn't make sense. Again, the starfish idea. Mm-hmm. You have one project here, one project here, one project here. This one does this well, this one does this well. And then at a certain point, they start to interoperate.
Sort of like if you step back outside of just the NXT and the Ardor projects, and you look at the big picture, that we can apply that same starfish analogy.
Yeah, exactly. It's you need to zoom out, I think. I'd still love, this was one of the things we were thinking about a few years ago. For instance, one of the chains that allows you to store data, like SIA or Storj, I'd like to have some kind of connection there, because our blockchain does store data, of course, but it's not its prime function. Mm-hmm. But it would be cool to have kind of a link, so you can have projects that do something with large amount of data and use our blockchain with it and do this and do that. And also have a link to Bitcoin and have a link to Ethereum, where you have an EVM doing something else, a smart contract part, where it is useful. That will take years to happen, but it will eventually happen. Mm-hmm. I think.
I see that in the future too. You mentioned about back to ICOs and different platforms. I wanted to point out for people who are maybe tuning in and trying to think of things from a business point of view. If you've already launched an ICO on another token or another platform and you've raised your money, doesn't mean you have to build on that platform. If you're looking around for your developers or the blockchain that you actually want to build on, it might actually be worth a few minutes of your time to look at the features of NXT and that what will be on the child chain system of Ardor, because you may find the solutions already pretty much developed there for you.
That's also one of the things, of course. Most people getting into any kind of blockchain project immediately look at, no, let me phrase the question differently. If you're getting into development, software development or website development or application development, it makes no sense to go in and just look at one thing. So I'm going to use this kind of database because that's the only one I know, so that must be awesome. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. I know of no software developer that will do that from the get-go. You do your research first. What fits best? And for some reason, that doesn't happen in blockchains that often. So, no, we use Ethereum because it's best. No, you use Ethereum because it's the only thing you know. Mm-hmm. You need to get educated. And if you end up on NEM or on NXT or on Ardor or Ethereum or Bitcoin, I don't care. But if you haven't looked and just dive blindly in and spend a lot of money on something that turns out to be useless or less than optimal, that's not doing your business a service, and definitely not the people who gave you money. So that fits with my blockchain workspace narrative. People should look at most systems and then make their choice. And then NXT or Ardor does have its value. And it might be, and that's something that isn't happening yet. That will change. But again,
I think it will change. And it's a message I want to get out there is give us a chance, give us a look, because it is going to be live here in just 3 days, and you can jump in and you can actually see Ardor with the child chains right there in action. And you know, one of the ways that if you're interested in building on the Ardor platform or the NXT platform, please go to jellerita.com and download the blockchain creation kit and start playing and learning. And that's a good way for developers to jump in. But if you are interested in a child chain development or project, reach out. You can reach out to me now at through the Ardor Next GR group website, I'm sorry, or you can reach out to Jellerita directly too, and we'll start exploring those options with you and see if what we have is a fit for you. I don't think anybody's going to tell you to just use it because it's available to you, but we'll evaluate it.
The thing is, it's a stupid idea not to do research. I'd be a bit more strong than you are now. It's not just have a look, it's be sensible.
Okay.
So have a look at everything that's out there, and that does include Ardor and NXT.
Right.
If it isn't a fit, fine. Then you shouldn't do things on there because it wouldn't benefit Ardor anyway, and it wouldn't benefit the customer. But you're doing yourself as a business a disservice not looking at it, which is stupid. It makes no sense from a business perspective, and I don't think most entrepreneurs are idiots. So they should.
No. So if you've launched your ICO and it's been successful and you're looking for your blockchain now, do your due diligence and include Ardor and NXT in that research.
Yeah.
That's the way we'll conclude that. So it has been really fun to reminisce, Bas, to talk about the good old days of NXT while we did that snapshot of our favorite blockchain. Well, my favorite blockchain. I am falling in love with Ardor too. You know, it's been interesting to watch it develop, and it will be interesting to watch it launch and be put into use. So please remember, we want to leave you with this message: do not trade Ardor right now. I wouldn't even be trading it on Poloniex. I don't know what's going on with that. Do we have an answer yet coming through on Slack, Bas?
About the trading, you mean?
Yeah.
Most people are saying they're off chain, of course. If you trade on Poloniex and you look at the actual blockchain, you see that you have your own dedicated account, and then it moves on to the hot wallet.
Okay.
So they're using an internal database to keep track of these things. So if that's the basis, it probably won't hurt, because then they already have the snapshot and they can allocate directly. They're not real Ardor anyway. So
okay, so they'll probably
might be okay, but for me it works the same. I'm not doing any trading at the moment, but I don't do that anyway if it's uncertain.
Right, exactly.
I'm a shit trader, so don't take trading advice from me. I'm really
but that's still wisdom. That's common wisdom in the crypto world for people who have been around for a while and who've learned some of our lessons and determined where we are in our trading expertise somewhere along the way, according to those lessons. But it is a lesson that we all know, and that we need to impart that to people who are just coming. Don't get swayed by the numbers that are going huge, especially don't buy when they're going up, please. No, just kidding. You do your due diligence on trading. So watch for Ardor, watch for Ignis in your Ardor thing. We'll let you know when the Ardor wallet is available to download. Bas, I have enjoyed this. We are going to be talking with Van Broek from the in just about 2 hours time. And so I'm going to go and take a little bit of a break. If you care to jump in and join us again, let me know. We'd be happy to hear from you. And thank you again for your time today.
Okay, good luck. And I'm also looking forward to see the Ardor wallet in action.
Yes, we'll have some things to say about that when that happens.
Yeah.
See, bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.